Hey everybody, Zee Garcia here. Today I'm taking a look at a worker placement game in which you are trying to build up your village. This is Everdell. In Everdell, the players are going to be gathering different resources and then turning around and using those resources to play cards in front of them and build up their village with different buildings, different constructions, and different characters that stick around and give you points, give you powers, that sort of thing. So, let's go ahead and take a look at it. I'm not going to give you a playthrough example. I'm just going to give you basically an overview of how the game works, show you some of the spots, show you some of the cards, and then we'll come on back after that and I'll tell you what I think of this one. Here's what the game looks like, set up for 3 players. Each player begins with 2 workers and a hand of cards. The game is going to revolve around 2 basic actions. On your turn, you are normally going to either send out one of your workers to one of the many locations on the board and gather whatever that spot gives you. So in general, you could go over here and get the wood, you can go over here and get the fruit, you can do combinations, say this one gives you a fruit and a card from the deck of cards there, and there's a few others that are randomized for the game, which go here and give you different combinations. These come out of a deck of cards that has a few different options in it. The other option is you can play a card by spending the necessary resources on the card. I'll show you this close up in 1 second. And playing the card out in front of you. You have space for 15 cards in front of you, and they'll have their own special abilities and actions on the cards. The other option, the third option you have on your turn is you can simply prepare for the next season. If you do that, you are going to look here at the very top of the tree. You would take a new worker, and you would trigger some cards in your tableau. There's a specific symbol that would trigger, and they all go off. Once you do that on your very next turn then, and you retrieve your workers of course, on the very next turn then you'll start just taking actions again. Once you do another prepare for the next season, you'll get 2 workers, and then you'll do it again a third time, get 1 final worker, and again, trigger those cards with that symbol. And each time you do that, you'll retrieve your workers, start deploying them again, continue playing cards, and so forth. So that's the general flow of the game. At the end of the game, you are going to get victory points for all of the cards you have in front of you, which are represented by these symbols here. Those are victory points. You might have some you've garnered throughout the game, and then some special tiles and goals up here that you might have been able to achieve. So let's take a little bit of a closer look at the actions down here and some of the cards. So let's say it's my turn, it's my very first turn, and I want to work towards this farm that I'm holding in my hand. The farm card here is going to cost me 2 of the twigs, 1 resin. It is going to give me a victory point, and it's going to allow me to gain 1 fruit. This is the kind of card that triggers every time I change seasons, or at least 2 of those times, alright? So, I can also, by the way, work towards any of the other cards I'm holding, of course, or any of the ones on the board. These are available to everyone, so you can choose to just build one right from the board here. You take it, place it in front of you, and then we'll go ahead and replace it from the deck. So, I'm going to need some twigs, some resin. So, for my first action, I'll go ahead and send one of my workers out to this spot over here, which says I get 3 twigs. So I would draw my 3 twigs, it would be my opponent's turn, then the next player's turn, and then it comes back to me. I'm going to take my other worker, and I'm going to send them, over here to this spot. Now this spot, again, is a changeable spot from game to game, but for now, this game, it ended up being I get 1 twig, 1 resin, and 1 berry, and if I'm playing with 4 players, then there are 2 spots there, otherwise there's only 1. So, me doing that occupies that card, and again, I get 1 of each. 1 twig, 1 resin, 1 berry, and that is my turn. My opponents would go once again, and then it comes back to me, and I'll go ahead and build my farm here by paying my 2 twigs, paying my resin, and playing this out in front of me. Now, some of the cards are going to allow me later on to build a character for free. So once I've got this farm, later on if I have the husband or the wife characters, as denoted down here, and I want to play them, I can do so for free. I would cover up the spot to remind me that I've done it, and I could play that card in front of me as a build chain for free. So there's two kinds of cards. You're going to have these constructions, and you're going to have the characters. The constructions oftentimes lead to a character. So for instance, you have the inn right here. You could construct that. It's going to be the same cost, in fact, 2 twigs and a resin. It's going to be the kind of building you can place workers in, as denoted right there. And this will, if you so choose later on, will allow you to build the innkeeper. So the innkeeper would be the character that can be built through the inn, and you'd put the innkeeper in play for free if you have this in front of you. Now the other characters, the other cards, the critters, they'll tell you on the side right here what you pay to build them, in this case 2 berries, but at the very top they'll tell you also what card they belong in this case the dungeon for the raider. And so that's a reminder that if you have the dungeon, raider for you will be free. You don't need the berries to build him. So let's take a quick look at some of the worker placement spots on the board. You've got all the spots along the river here. And so you'll have a combination of berries and cards. You'll have the pebbles. You'll get victory points and cards there. Resin, combinations of resin and cards. Some of the twigs and so on. You've also got above that, you'll see there you've got a few special locations which are on these tiles. And these require you to have a specific combination of cards. So ones have got 3 cards of that type. Say, for example, having the inn would be 1. It's denoted right there. Ones I've got 3, well, I can choose to go here and I'll get this tile off the board. That's 3 victory points for me. There are also the ones that change along the side of the board. And again, these are randomized each game. There'll be specific combinations of goods. And then there are 2 spots across the bottom. Won't be able to show you those, but they allow you to discard cards and draw replacements. And there's 1 spot near the bottom that allows you only at the very end of the game, or near the end, to discard cards for straight up victory points. So those are all of your options in the game for worker placement spots. Your other option, again, is simply building these cards. There are also 4 of these goals that are sitting on top of the tree, and these have a requirement listed across the top. So, for example, Chip Sweep and the Clock Tower, if you have both of those, you can grab this. It's going to give you some special powers, some victory points, possibly something else that comes with it, all right? So those are the locations or the goals that are going to be sitting at the top of the tree. And again, there will be 4 of them available, but it's 4 from a group of cards. So there's going to be quite a few of these, and you'll only play with 4 each game. So there you go. There are a couple of components I'm not showing you here in the overview, but that's basically it. You are going to be deploying your workers, taking actions with those workers, gathering resources to then turn around and spend those resources on these cards so that you can get victory points. You'll try to complete goals, get specific combinations of these, take special actions so that at the end of the game, after the 3 reset seasons, and then you've deployed all of your workers and built all the cards you can for that final time, you can come out ahead and have the most victory points. So let's go back up top. Let me tell you what I think of it. All right, so that is Everdell. Let's talk about it. I want to start with thematic ties. Is the theme original? Is it well implemented into the game? I think the theme here is very cute. It is interesting. It's engaging. It might be a little misleading because it does look like it's a kid's theme, but the game is certainly not a kid's game. There are too many moving parts. There's too much going on for, I would say, younger kids that perhaps are enchanted by the artwork to really be able to play effectively. So the theme is neat, and as long as you are not someone who is looking for something particularly serious, that you're okay with this being whimsical, I think you'll enjoy it as well. The aesthetics, component quality, the artwork, things like that. This is spectacular. The game, the artwork is insanely attractive. The components are very, very nice. You are going to get tons of cards, all of them linen finished, lots of different goods, all of them very nicely constructed and made. The berries especially I find to be very charming. They have sort of a rubbery feel to them. So the aesthetics here are just really spectacular. Replayability. Does the game scale well, or are there new things to discover from session to session? I do want to mention the game has a solitaire mode, plays largely like the original game, so that's very nice. If you enjoy the regular play, you're largely getting the same thing with a little, some spots that are blocked by this nemesis you'll be dealing with. As far as new things to discover, certainly there are going to be, there are so many cards, there are so many spots on the board that might change from game to game to give you some new options, so that's all good. Scalability, I would say, is a little problematic because of the tree. The tree is going to, if you are playing with more than, let's say, I'm tempted to say more than 2 players, but 3 I think would be okay also. If you're playing with more than 3, that tree is going to get in someone's way. It's just going to limit the visibility of the entire board. So that's likely to be a problem. I think I prefer the game at 2 anyway because I don't have to deal with those issues, but be aware that is there. The game length, is it interesting the whole time? Does it get repetitive or anything like that? The game feels like it gives you a lot of... It's an interesting feeling. It's when you first start, you are going to feel like, wow, I have 2 workers. I barely did anything before I had to reset, and get my extra worker, maybe trigger a couple of powers. This is going to be extremely quick. You get more workers, does ease up, and it allows the game to blossom towards the end of the session, but it does not outstay its welcome. I like the way the game works, again, with fewer players especially, which is my preferred way of playing. I think the gameplay is spot on. It feels right. Ease of play. Is it fiddly? Are there any extraneous rules? Is it easy to teach? Usability, rulebook, things like that. Unfortunately here, the game is going to take a bit of a ding, a solid ding, I would say. And there's a few reasons. So, A, the tree. Yes, it's attractive. Yes, it has a lot of table presence. It's also fiddly. It's also possibly in someone's way. And what it offers is largely aesthetic. There is nothing else that tree does that is not just because it's pretty, right? So, not sure how I feel about that choice. It's also kind of a pain to put together and take apart and put together and take apart every time you play. You cannot store that tree built up, okay? So that's A. B, the rule book is not as good as I wish it was. I have the hardest time figuring out, once I prepare for the next season, do I then not take actions until everyone else has prepared for the same season? No. I might be in autumn before you are in autumn, which does not make a whole lot of sense, and the rules don't hammer that point home. I couldn't figure out if I'm supposed to skip turns until the other player is done or not. And you're not, by the way. If you prepare for the next season, the other players will go, and once it's your go again, you start playing. So that was unclear. The rulebook really was not as straightforward as I was hoping for. It's a gorgeous rulebook. There's a lot of fluff. It's very pretty. I mean, they give you a card breakdown at the end of the rulebook, but there are questions, and it's not as clear as I would like it to be, And then C, the last point I want to make. So we got the tree, we got the rulebook, and the last thing is the cards themselves are very gorgeously illustrated, but they have some usability issues. The text is very small. You have to make sure that you can easily see the resources, and since there's so much artwork, you might have a little bit of a hard time with that. But the main problem is just that font size. It's very tiny. The flavor text is incredibly small, but okay, it's flavor text. But I need that corner. I need to be able to see if a building, if a construction gives me a character. And those are tiny. And considering you have not just your hand of cards, but there are 8 cards on the table, those are basically in your hand as well. There's going to be a lot of grabbing cards and reading cards and figuring out what can I do? Should I even go for that? What's it do? What's it give me? There's a lot of that. So here the game takes a hit. Lastly, tactics and strategy. Does the game give you interesting choices, tactical choices. Is there too much luck? Things like that. It's a card game. There is going to be some luck in the game. But I have not found, my main concern was, wow, there are a ton of chains here. This character and this building go together. This character and this building go together. And the deck of cards is massive. So my main concern was, I'll never get these things to line up. I have not found that to be true. It works, not all the time, but it'll work enough, you know. And you'll have some choices. You might not be able to go, oh, I really wanted this character because I get to deploy him for free. You might not see that guy, right? But you'll have options. You know, you'll have plenty of options on the table. They might not be what you were hoping for, but they're there for you. So I do find that the game is tactically rich. It's interesting. It's engaging. You'll always feel like there are things for you to do, things to work towards, even if it's not something you thought you should go towards or were hoping to go towards. So there's a decent balance here between the tactics in the game and, yes, a splash of luck in it. So overall, I would say, despite the usability issues, despite a little bit of the lack of clarity I had and the tree, which is very pretty but very gimmicky, the game is good. It's rich in theme and artwork. It's engaging. It's very cute. It's and it's got a lot going on under the hood as well. If you enjoy worker placement games, resource management games, I think this is one you might very well like. It's a good game. So Everdell for me is going to get a seal of approval. I would certainly recommend it if you enjoy this kind of game. And if you're looking for one that is just going to wow you with its setting and its art style. So there you go. That is Everdell. Thanks for checking this out with me. I appreciate it. I'm Zee Garcia. I'll see you on the next one.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com.